This is Rose, and today we're going to cover section 9.4. And I'm going to break this into two videos. The first part is going to be solving equations that are in factored form. And the second part is factoring common factors. I think that having two short videos would be better than to have one long video. So let's do the first part of this section. And we start off with a definition. Okay, and the definition is roots are solutions to an equation that is a product of factors and the other side is zero. So here we have two factors. There's a product and it's equal to zero. And the zero property means that if we have two factors, A and B, we can solve them by taking factor A, set that equal to zero, and factor B and set that equal to zero. But I'd like to show you this whole process because we're going to be learning how to factor. In this section, all we are concerned about is that we have our answers in factored form and we're going to learn how to solve them. But what's going to happen is that we're going to get an equation that's in function form. F of x equals x squared plus 5x plus 6. And we're going to want to solve that. Well, we're going to take x squared plus 5x plus 6, and we're going to set that equal to 0. So we've got this part accomplished. One side is 0. And we're going to learn how to factor this in the next section. We're going to learn how to factor. And when we do, we're going to learn that to do that, we're going to get x plus 2, x plus 3, and we set that equal to 0. And you know how to multiply these binomials to check that I'm not lying to you. Multiply the first terms, x squared, 3x, and 2x gives me 5x. 2 times 3 gives me 6. So it makes sense that these two factors give me this. And in the next class, we're going to learn how to go from there to factor to there. But what's going to happen is we want to solve this. So remember I told you that to solve, we're going to pretend that we're going to say this is factor A and this is factor B. So we're going to take factor A, x plus 2 equals 0, and we're going to take factor B, x plus 3 equals 0. And now we can solve each of these. We subtract 2 from both sides. You could probably do it mentally. X equals negative 2. And then we subtract 3 from both sides. X equals negative 3. And just so that you believe me this works, we're going to check the negative 2 and negative 3 in the original equation. All right, so negative 2 squared is 4. 5 times negative 2 is negative 10. So 4, negative 10, and 6 equals 0. So 0 equals 0. It checks. We're going to take negative 3, square it, get 9. Negative 3 times 5 is negative 15. 9 minus 15 is negative 6 plus 6. We check that. 0 equals 0, and there you go. So our solutions are x equals -2 and -3. And down here I've written for you solutions, roots, zeros, they all mean the same thing. You're solving for x. So let's take this problem here. Okay. And we're going to solve it. Okay. So we are going to solve this equation, and we are going to set each factor to equal 0. So we set x minus 5 equals 0. X plus 4 equals 0. Now you can mentally do this, or you can show the work. You add 5. So we get x is equal to 5. You can mentally do this. X is equal to -4. Or you can show that step. You subtract 4 from both sides. Okay. So the solutions are x equals -4 and 5. Those are the solutions. You check the solutions in the original equation. So you're going to check x equals -4 and check x equals 5. And it's really good to have very good notes so that when you're studying for tests and studying for the final, you know how to do these checks. And I think you're going to see the zero property come out, and you'll really understand what that zero property is when we do this check. So we go back to this original equation, and we're going to replace the x in both cases with -4. And notice here, we have -9, -4 plus 4 times 0. There's our zero property. Multiply these, 0 equals 0, cha-ching, it checks. All right, now we're going to go through, and we checked -4, good. Now we're going to check 5, and we're going to go back up here. Where the x is, we replace them with 5. And notice this time, 5 minus 5 is 0 times, and here's 5 plus 4, 9. Multiply these, 0 equals 0, cha-ching, it checks. Okay. So we're going to skip the next page. And we are going to go to these two problems under checkpoint on the 3rd page. And here you can skip some steps because you've got good notes under example 1. But these are the required steps that you must show. X plus 6 is equal to 0, and x minus 3 equals 0. All right? Now mentally you subtract 6 from both sides, and you get x equals -6. Now, if you need to show work, but in this case, it's pretty straightforward. Here, x minus 3 equals 0. Well, 3 minus 3 is 0. So x is equal to 3. And then I want you to use your handy dandy calculator to check this. So you can see -6 plus 6, well, that's going to be 0 times -6 times -3 times -9, and 0 times -9 is 0. That checks. Check the 3. 3 plus 6 is 9. 3 minus 3 is 0. And so 9 times 0 is 0. It checks. So what I'd like you to do is pause the video, do number 2, and then start it back up and see if you got it correct. So pause it. And now I'm going to do it. And I'm just going to do it pretty much silently because it's pretty straightforward. You set each factor equal to 0. Then you solve each factor. And that was kind of sloppy. X is equal to, x equals 8. And then you can see 8 minus 8, 0 times 3 equals 0. That checks. Over here, you check it. -3, 5 minus 5 times 0 equals 0. It checks. Fantastic. So on the back of this page, you've got more practice problems to do. All right. And I am going to go through number 9 and show you that you're going to do these problems. You're going to go to my website and check the answers. And then you can watch the second part of the video. So here we get 6b minus 4 equals 0. And b minus 8 equals 0. Well, this one's really easy because b is equal to 8. And if I check, use your handy dandy calculator, so I'm going to get 6 times 8, 48, minus 4. So the check is 4 times 8 minus 8, 0 equals 0. That checks. Okay. Here we've got, mentally you add 4 to both sides. So 6b equals 4. We divide by 6. And b equals 2/3. Remember, you have to reduce it. And since 2/3, the decimal doesn't terminate, you need to keep it as a fraction. So if I check this, okay, this side is going to be 0 times this, which is going to be -7 1/3. And so that checks. Okay. So when you're doing these problems, I'm not going to require that you show these checks. On your homework tonight, I do want you to show these checks. But here I want you to practice doing setting each factor equal to 0, solving it, and then going to my website and checking these answers. And when you're done with that, come back and watch the second part of this video.